Hi everyone, Tracy DW here. In 1898, the New York Times wrote an article about a 25-year-old woman who created a buzz wherever she went. She had arrived in the US 2 years before with her husband John, who was also creating a buzz. Born of royal African lineage and a renowned orator in his own native country of South Africa, he would write the first of his publications in 1910, and by 1930 his biographies on the Zulu royal family would make him Africa's first native official biographer. He would also become a prominent lecturer and be awarded a doctorate in philosophy, and go on to become co-founder of the greatest political movement to challenge the world's most notorious racist regime. However, it was still only 1898, and it was his wife who in New York took centre stage. The New York Times couldn't get enough of her. The article read like that of a Hollywood film script. Young, with blazing black eyes, smooth brown skin and handsome regular features. She speaks good English with a deliberation that is charming and in the softest voice in the world. Her manner is grace itself. Such a description may seem a tad chauvinistic or even sexist, but not for Nokutela Dube, a young, gifted and black native South African, because being written about this in this manner, at a time like this in the West, was not only a celebration of the black woman, but also a celebration of the black woman being humanised. Nokutela Dube was certainly perceived as a superstar, and New York was indeed starstruck. What gave Nokutela such star quality? Why was this woman so special, so set apart, but at the same time so relatable? Some of the reasons may have been hidden in her childhood, where in 1873 she was born in a missionary station in Inanda, Durban, South Africa. She was a star pupil whose essays were selected for regular publication in the press reports in Minnesota, US, the home state of one of Nokutela's patrons, Ida Wilcox. So, long before Nokutela had ever stepped foot on US soil, her reputation as a talented writer had already preceded her. However, both Nokutela and her husband lived at a time during South Africa's history where events would play out which would move the country from a free land to Dutch occupation to a British colony, and finally where its indigenous population would be oppressed by apartheid. In 1867, diamonds were discovered in Kimberley, just 6 years prior to Nokutela's birth. A decade later, in 1877, Britain would formally annex the Transvaal and defeat the Zulus in Natal. The First and Second Boer Wars, 1880 to 81 and 1899 to 1902, transpired between the British and Dutch, with the discovery of gold in the Transvaal marking an interlude between the two wars. And in 1902, the Treaty of Vereeniging unionised Natal, the Transvaal and Orange Free State to form what is now known as South Africa. 10 years later, in 1912, Nokutela and her husband co-founded the SANNC, the South African Native National Congress, a precursor to Marcus Garvey and his Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, founded in 1914. The SANNC was not intended to become a radical movement, but would become the ANC, the African National Congress, in 1917. Their radicalised sentiments disallowed women to join, but as Nokutela was a co-founder, it made her a significant role model for women, as her co-written song Nkosi Sikelel le Africa is now sung as an anthem at every ANC meeting since 1925. In the 1940s and 50s, the ANC came into its own when it attracted gifted Africans such as Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, and a young 26-year-old who went by the name of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. Prominent African females such as Lillian Ngoyi, Albertina Sisulu, and Winnie Madikizela Mandela would also follow in Nokutela's footsteps. Nokutela also co-founded the Lelanga Lasse Natali, the Son of Natal, the first native South African-owned and published newspaper in 1903, as well as the Olanga High School, an institution to promote the education and liberation of African women, which taught music, tailoring, housekeeping, and intellectual studies. Both Nokutela and her husband had the courage to follow their convictions, defending that which is endemic to their culture and their race, in spite of colonial forces, and kicking against the deficit model of African economic status, aspiring towards self-reliance to gain global respect. Personal difficulties marred public success, as she could not have children, and her husband's affair and illegitimate child caused their separation. And as a woman at this time, it would have taken a lot of courage to leave a marriage. Despite her successes, Nokutela experienced what so many women still experience in today's modern society: being undermined for not being reproductive and only being validated for their childbearing capabilities, and also the dilemma of a woman's biology sometimes being at odds with her environment. Her gravestone, once faceless with the racist label CK9753, is now proudly signified with the honorary statement that throughout her life, Nokutela taught self-reliance and independence to generations of South Africans and planted the seeds of freedom. She should take comfort from the fact that she ideologically reproduced a legacy from which all native South Africans benefit from today. With a life of service as a prominent role model to all who knew her, this star quality transformed into a star power that was undeniable. For this, we remember and salute you, Nokutela. You are indeed South Africa's First Lady. If you liked this podcast, then stay on this listening platform and check out my other podcast episodes related to this one, such as the original episode that this reprisal is based on, South Africa's First Lady, Nokutela Dube, from the first season. And why not check out the reprisal series from this current season, Windrush 75, Constantinople 1453, Anyone for Tea, and The Pink Map, and their original episodes back in the very first season, HM Windrush, A Different Perspective, Constantinople 1453, A Catalyst for European Change, The Pink Map Project, The Ultimate Paradox, and Anyone for Tea, The Colonisation of Hong Kong. And don't forget what I call the heart and soul of the Stories to be Told movement, my stories, or poetic narratives, Caribbean Wind, Caribbean Rush, Knights at the Round Table, the Berlin Conference 1884, and Gone with the Wind, Macmillan's Speech for Change, These are all available on the website in both Kindle and paperback formats and in ebook format at Apple Books. Also, the publication of the latest 4 titles. Now, if you want to find out more, just visit storiestobetold.com and check out the learning platforms for The Journey's End, Giving Back Hong Kong, Bite from the Big Apple, A Story for New York, Hope for Zimbabwe, Arise the Phoenix, and, related to this podcast episode, A Story for South Africa. You can also visit storiestobetold.com for my latest newsletter and promotional giveaway for this month for one lucky person on my email list. Now, if you'd like to sign up to my email list, go to the website and sign up where you can opt in and receive your free samples of my first 4 titles, but also it's an opportunity to enter the draw for the monthly giveaway. And finally, yes, I'm going to remind you again. Remember that you can also send me an audio message on the SpeakPipe link, which is also in the show notes. So don't be a stranger. Feel free to like, follow and share me on social media when you visit the website. Just click onto whichever social media link you would like to follow me on. And, as always, it's a pleasure and a privilege to share my learning journey with you in this podcast series, and I encourage you to either begin or continue your own. History is a matter of fact or perspective. I'm Tracy DW, and this is a Stories to be Told podcast. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed. Thanks so much for listening again, and I'll see you on the next page.